Hello everyone and welcome to a quick Stata tutorial sponsored by the FHSS Research Support Center at BYU. Today we're going to be talking about creating and deleting variables using the encode command, gen command, and extensions to the generate command. We'll also be doing recode and then dropping variables. So recently I just used the HBP2 dataset to fix up a couple things. So we're going to be staying in this dataset, and if you want to use it, just type in web use HBP2, clear. And one thing we can do real quick is browse the data. One thing we can see right here, this last variable, the sex variable, it lists male and females. But I can't really do too much frequencies on this because the actual value of this is male because it's a text. I can't do much. But I want to change that quickly and easily to a number with a label. And in order to do that, I just need to use the encode command. So we type in encode and we tell Stata what variable we want to encode. And then we can generate, you can type in generate if you want to, but you don't have to. We're going to generate a new variable and we're going to call it gender. So now when we browse our data, right here we've got this new variable called gender, and you can see it's blue, which means it's got a label. And as you click on this, you can see female has a value of 1 and male has a value of 2. And so we just created a whole new variable just like that. Bam, they're all beautiful. So just so we can double check, we're going to use tab and we're going to tabulate sex and gender without labels so I can show you what's happening here. So sex, that's the actual value, female and male. But gender, the value is 1 and 2. And now you can see that 1s are females, 2s are males. But if we were to run that same command just without labels, you can now see that gender has a label, male and female, and it still lines up. So just some fun ways to check that. There's also other easy ways of generating new variables. Like if I just wanted to create a variable called I'm a student. And it's true, so I'm going to put a 1. I've just created a new variable. It's called I'm a student. And if we browse the data, I told it to be equal to 1, and so it's equal to 1 for every single person. So that's something that you can do right there. Another thing that we can do is while we're looking at our data, if I want to find people who are female and who have high blood pressure, I can do that. So we're going to use the gen command again, and we're going to call this HBPs for high blood pressure, and then we're going to call it female because that's who we're looking for. Now we're going to use some logical statements, and in order to do that, we are just going to type in something simple like gender equals equals. The difference real quick between 1 equals and 2 equals is 1 equals means that I'm assigning a value, whereas 2 equals means I'm evaluating a value. So does gender equal 1? If it does, that's going to return 1 or true. If it's not true, then it's going to return a 0. But I also want people who have high blood pressure. So HBP, to be honest, I forgot what the value of true was for this one, or yes, so it's 1, whereas no is a 0. Cool. So now I can do the same thing here. Equals equals 1 if high blood pressure is equal to 1. So now we have just created that. And what this is going to do is it's going to look for everyone who is a female and they have high blood pressure. If either one of these is not satisfied, then the whole thing is false and it's going to give it a 0. So let's take a look. So high blood pressure female. This person's a female, but they don't have high blood pressure. So they get a 0. Whereas this person is a female and they have high blood pressure. So they've got a 1. And you can see that there's not a lot here, but there's a couple. Here's another one. And so that's just another way to go through and edit your data, create new variables. But there are some other things that we can do. Let me show you real quick. Egen. Egen stands for extensions to generate. And please use the help command often. It really is helpful. But you can do so many different things on here. Like each one of these is a different thing that you can use with egen, and I'm going to show you how to use a few of these. Okay, so we are actually going to be switching data sets. We are going to be using egen example 14. Oh no, just 4. My bad. Clear. Okay, so the data set is super simple. It's got variables A, B, C, and this is the matrix that it creates. Okay, so what we're going to do is get a total of each row. So you can look at this data and just say, look, the total of this row is 5. So I'm going to create a new variable that actually does that. And it will not include the missing values. So we are going to type in egen, give it a name. I'm going to call this our total. And I'm going to set it equal to row total of these variables, A, B, and C. Oops. So now you can see that our total was just created. We get 5. And as you can see, that is correct. 10, 4 plus 6. 7 plus 8 is 15. And then 10, 11, 12, that's 33. So that worked. Other things you can do. There's our no miss. That's just what we're going to call it. And what this does, well, I'll just show you. We're going to type in row non-miss, if I can spell, A, B, C. So now it tells you how many are not missing. So on this row, between these 3 variables, 2 of them were not missing. And same thing on this one. As it says, 2 were not missing, A and C. And then this one is the same story. And you can do so many of these things to help create new variables. So other ones that they've got for rows, there's row first. It gives you the first non-missing value in a variable list. Row last gives you the last non-missing value. Row max gives you the highest or the maximum in the row. This gives you the average in the row, the median in the row. Very helpful things. Now, let's say you didn't want to get all of your data just for your row. You actually wanted column totals. Well, we can do that as well. So if we type in egen, give it a name, call total, you just remove the row. Oops, total. So instead of saying row total, you just say total. But now you have to say which variable. So we're just going to pick the first one. So as you can see, 4 plus 7 is 11, plus 10 is 21. So you can see it's 21 for all of them, because we looked at one row. So that's something fun you can do. Alright, so we've talked about encode, we've talked about generate, we've talked about extensions to generate, and I encourage you to go through that because it can be very helpful. You can standardize things, you can get mins and maximums, you can get medians, all sorts of different distributions. But right now we're going to go back to our good old friend flavor2. So tab delimited, there we go, flavor2.csv. If you don't have this, go to the Research Support Center website and download it in the Stata workshop. So we're going to go back here, and one thing we're going to do is use the recode command. So on a previous video we talked about variable 4 being a gender variable, but it's 1s and 2s, and often in research you'll see them as 0s and 1s. So I'm going to show you how to quickly change that. So we just use the recode command because we want to recode, and Stata likes to make things easy for us as much as possible. So we are going to recode variable 4. And we're looking at the values now. So everything that was a 2, we want it to be equal to 1. And everything that was a 1, we want it to be equal to 0. And then we're going to create a new variable and call it gender. So now you can see there's 33 differences between variable 4 and gender. So now everything that was a 1 is now a 0. Everything that was a 2 is now a 1. And it goes all the way down. So that's another way that you can create variables, because people often want to do a lot of cool things with their data, but their data isn't ready to do cool things yet. So that's why we're doing this data management series. Alright, Now that was just changing one value to another, but you can actually do more things with that. So looking back at this, we've got our age variable. Age is a continuous variable because, it is. But we're going to categorize this. We're going to actually create a new variable called teenager. And we are going to do this by recoding. So we recode variable 2, which is our age variable. And everything from 17 through 19, that's what that slash means, is through. So if they're 17 to 19, then yes, they are a teenager. We're going to say it's equal to 1. But then we say anyone from 20 on up, and so we can actually just say max, because I don't really remember what the highest number is. We want that to be equal to 0, because they are not a teenager. And then we are going to actually generate this new variable and call it teenager. Boom, 33 differences. So now we can look. This person, it says they're not a teenager. And as you can see, the age is 21. 21 is not a teenager. But 18, 17, 19, 19, those are all teenagers. So you can use this recode command in several different ways. But let's say I messed up on this teenager variable and I want to get rid of it. This is easy. You just say drop teenager. Boom, the entire variable is gone. As you can see, there's no more teenager variable. So that's great. You can now delete variables. Sometimes, especially if you've downloaded something from Qualtrics, it adds extra variables in there that you don't need. Just drop them, as long as you know you don't need them. Now I'm going to show you how to delete specific observations. So we are going to go ahead and look at this flavor variable right here, v3, and we are going to delete everyone who said that they liked flavor 1, because flavor 1 is clearly the worst flavor. So we are going to say drop if, nope, it's not flavor, it's v3, if v3 is less than 2. You can also say if it's equal to 1. Either one of those will work. So now it'll show us that 11 observations were deleted. And now you can see that in variable 3, in the flavor variable, there's no one that has a 1 here because we've deleted them. So now you know several ways to generate new variables. We've talked about the encode command, the generate command, the extensions to generate. We've talked about recoding. And now you know how to delete variables, such as drop teenager, and also delete observations, drop if. And that's all I've got for right now. Thank you very much for watching this, and please stay tuned for our other videos.